the art of war, Sun Tzu said this: "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle." First, let's talk about knowing our enemies. Let's assume that a third of us is taught that we should love our enemies, and another third is taught that we have no enemies at all. Only the final third would be comfortable with the idea that we have enemies and we should know them, and it might be necessary to fight them. Let's call the first group naive Christians, the second group silly relativists, and the third group sober realists, who worry we have 100 battles before us. In my article, The Red, Green, Black Axis, I tried to show that we in the West, especially North America and Europe, have enemies in our midst. These enemies are patient, cunning, and dangerous. I use this color coding to explain what's happening as three apparently distinct ideologies are ascendant. Red ideology stems from Marxism, and its advocates seek radical egalitarian materialism, the abolition of private property, and the dissolution of traditional institutions such as the nuclear family. It has evolved through Lenin's revolutionary violence, the Frankfurt School's cultural subversion, and Gramsci's strategy of infiltrating institutions. Modern manifestations include academic activism, aggressive street tactics, and strategic alliances that use dialectical thinking that risks forming dangerous ideological hybrids. You know, like the Muslim Marxism of Mamdani. And speaking of, green ideology originates from fundamentalist Islamic doctrine that divides the world into the House of Islam and the House of War. It encompasses strict patriarchal social structures, religious imperialism, and the strategic approach to expansion. The primary means are migration, population growth, and eventual dominance in host nations. While some grievances against Western intervention are understandable, the ideology's long-term goal remains establishing a caliphate through gradual infiltration and consolidation of power, which is particularly evident in Europe today. Black is an anti-ideology, rooted in nihilism and pathology rather than a coherent philosophy. It's the manifestation of a destructive impulse to break what is beautiful and annihilate what is good. Its adherents employ manipulative tactics like Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. They use this to control narratives and engage in toxic evangelism.
They're questioning existence and life itself. Morality, purpose, and hope begin to disappear, and at the end of that road is complete societal collapse.
This worldview, born from personality disorders, social isolation, and resentment, creates vicious cycles that attract similarly unhealthy individuals and can culminate in extreme violence against innocents. Assume for a moment that I'm correct about these enemies, and the foregoing is a bare minimum of what it means to know them. What if these three factions were also forming an alliance? In certain respects, the alliance would be unconscious, but in others, it's conscious, even strategic. For a majority who would vote for either Zoran Mamdani or Sadiq Khan, it's mostly unconscious. Voting is cheap. But for Mamdani and Khan, it's strategic. They are political animals, green-red hybrids whose deepest allegiances are red-green. But they are willing to let the black nihilists run amok in the streets to serve as shock troops. The British people are rousing, but not quickly enough, and it looks like it might be too little too late. Today, despite the disastrous history of Labour Party governments, with their Fabian Society socialists, their nationalizations, and their woeful economic performance, people still vote for them. Now they have Red Keir Starmer, who, flanked by crypto-Islamists in his cabinet, is willing to keep the doors open to a veritable invasion of military-age males responsible for a spike in violent and sexual crimes unprecedented in modern Britain. Most are sponging off the indigenous taxpayers while building madrasas, mosques, and Sharia courts throughout the land. It's jizya through the back door. The black nihilists turn up to all the protests like football hooligans, only their team is the annihilation of Western civilization. Something similar can be said about major US cities. The UK is just a bit further down the road to ruin. But there's a bigger enemy. While everyone is going apeshit over vulgarity, bluster, and bombast of the Trump administration, they ignore the biggest enemy of all. So-called multilateral institutions, deep state functionaries, and multinational corporations are patiently colluding for the same goal: total control. Yet the blob has many faces. COVID was a test case, and we all failed it. Now they're eyeing China's social credit system with envy. That's what they want to blanket the world with, and ironically, they'll claim to protect you from the red, green, black axis to get exactly what they want. It starts with digital ID requirements, a central bank digital currency, and an AI-enabled panopticon.
We have CBDCs that are being rolled out in countries, and that allows a virtually unlimited amount of tyranny, financially speaking, that a government can impose on its people.
Every move you make, they'll be watching you. Step out of line, they'll freeze your account. You and yours will be trapped in a digital prison indefinitely. For those who've been asleep in all of this, it's time to know yourself. The first thing you might want to pay attention to is the sober realists. Either a naive Christian or a silly relativist position will lock you into the cosmopolitan trap. That trap is set when we don't know ourselves or our enemies well enough to accept that those with ideologies radically different from ours and who seek to dominate us do not have our best interests at heart. They will appeal to your suicidal empathy. They will set the cosmopolitan trap for you. Look, I understand. No one wants to seem like someone who lacks empathy. None of us wants to be called Islamophobes, fascists, heartless, or uncaring. But as a sober realist, you will come to see that making you feel guilty about your concerns is a tactic in the broader strategy. They know you're timid and want to be seen as a good person. But with each passing day, thwarting the enemies, red, green, or black, will get harder. If you are dispositionally a naive Christian, you can still love your enemies while defending the civilization you cherish. As a silly relativist, you can still respect people of other cultures, but draw the line when those people openly threaten to crush your culture and society like a wet Dixie cup. In the process, you must not turn to the blob for help, for this too is a trap. But there's hope. If you search deep inside yourself, you will come to see that your idealism does not replace your enemy's lust to dominate. Toleration requires reciprocity. In the absence of others' willingness to mirror your liberal values, you can either turn to sober realism or you can let the enemies you refuse to acknowledge inherit the earth, including your children and your children's children. My kids ask me what I do for work, and I say, I write, talk into a microphone, and hope people send money. Now I'm questioning my life choices, but the kids gotta eat, and we have bureaucracies to topple. Support our work at underthrow.org, and for less than $5 a month, you'll help me rouse the rabble. Wait, what's underthrow? If overthrow is violent, underthrow is peaceful yet powerful. Real change doesn't start in Washington. Casting your vote with millions is like crying a teardrop into the ocean. Instead, we build consent-based communities that make traditional power structures obsolete. Left, right, or center, it doesn't matter. What matters is creating options for opting out and opting in. We build parallel systems in which people thrive, then just leave the old systems behind. It's about choosing communities, not imposing them. So, support the show, feed my kids, read the newsletter, and discover why most subversive acts amount to building a better civilization together. Visit underthrow.org.